All right, next, so let's get some scoring in the game. So we're going to need to create a new scene here. Let's make this a canvas layer. This is going to be our UI for the game. Let's have a margin container here. Let's make this a full rect so it takes up the whole screen. Let's make sure we get that mouse filter off. And let's do 8 pixel margins all around. And then we can simply have a label. And make sure that's under the margin container. And so this is going to be our score. And let's go to this margin container here and set its theme. There we go. So that applies the label theme. This is going to be our score label. I want this to be in the top corner here. So let's come down here to vertical and we will shrink begin and shrink begin. There we go. So we got a score. Let's save this under UI. And we will add a script to this. Let's access this score label as a unique name. Let me pull up my UI on my other thing here. Yep, so in here, let's go to our, save that, let's go to our event here. So under game, we're going to have a signal, score changed. Save that. So we can come back to the UI here. Let's go into the ready function and connect to that signal. So events.scoreChanged.connect to on score changed. And on score changed. Score int. So let's come back to the events here. We actually want to pass in the score. I'm going to say score. When the score changes, we want to pass in the score. And we will do score label dot text equals score plus a string of score. We will take this score and stringify it and then add it on the end of that score label dot text. So to track our score, we will use an auto load. Let's come to auto load here and create a new script. This is going to be the game manager. So let's go to project settings, globals, and let's add that game manager as an auto load. So let's have a few constants here. Let's have points, enemy 01. We'll have the first enemy worth 10 points. We'll have the second enemy be worth 15 points. And the third enemy be worth 20 points. And whenever we destroy an enemy projectile, we'll have that be worth 1 point. So let's hold the score here as an int. And we'll have a couple functions here. So we'll add score and we'll pass in the points that we want to add, and we'll do score plus equals points. And then we'll cast that signal out, the score changed. And we'll give it the score. And then we'll have a function here, reset score, and we'll just score equals 0. And then events dot score changed dot emit the score. So this is where we're actually storing the score. The UI, you don't want to tie game logic and hold the score on the UI itself. You just want to you want the score label to just notice when the score changes and reflect that. You want the logic to be separate from the UI. You want the game logic to be separate from the UI itself. So that's why we have a game manager auto load that's going to handle the score for us. So now we can come back to our enemy here, and when our enemy dies, we can do game manager dot add score, and actually, you know what? We're going to have to do this a little differently. So each of the enemies has a different score. So we need to overwrite a function, and I don't want to overwrite the entire die function, so we'll just have a small function here, reward points. We'll do game manager dot add score, game manager dot enemy points 01, and then we will call this reward points in the die function, so that, and let's copy this. So now we can come into the enemy 02 script, and we can override that that reward points function with enemy points, or points enemy 02, and then override it here again. With enemy points enemy 03. Now each of the enemies is rewarding the correct point value, and our enemy projectiles need to do the same. So when they die, we'll do game manager dot add score, game manager dot points projectile, and the enemy projectile 02 do the same thing. Okay, and it's as easy as that, setting up the points. Let's go ahead and make sure those points are working. Our score is not showing up because we need to go to game and add our UI on there. Put that at the top. And canvas layers always will draw over whatever you have here, because it's the canvas layer always draws on top. So even though it's at the top here and everything's below it, it'll still draw on top. So let's see our points working here. Yep, points are working. So let's create the leaderboard scene now. So we have a way to save our points and our high scores. So let's create a new scene here. This is going to be a control. It's going to be the leaderboard menu. So let's create a margin container on this. Let's have that be full rect. Let's go to our mouse filter right away. Turn that to ignore. And for the margins here, we're going to do 128, 64, 128, and 64. Now we can add a panel container on here. And then another margin container with 8 pixel margins within that panel container. And then let's do a VBox container. Have a label in here. This is going to be the title label. So this is the leaderboard. And we have a center alignment on that. Let's go ahead and right on the top, control, let's set the UI theme for this. There we go. It's our leaderboard. So let's click on this VBox container here. Let's have a scroll container. Oh, not a H scroll. Let's have a scroll container. So this is a container that has like a scroll bar on the side and you can scroll in it. And then the scroll container needs a container inside of it. So it's going to have another VBox container inside of it. And this VBox container is going to hold the name of the player name and then the score associated with that name. That's good. Do we have a custom minimum size on this? Let me see. Okay, now come to the scroll container here, and under the container sizing here, we want to hit expand on the vertical, so it expands with all the space that it has available to it. Come on the VBox container here, and we're going to have an HBox container. This is going to contain the buttons at the bottom of the leaderboard. So we'll have a button in this HBox container. This will be the back button. So let's name that back button. And then duplicate that, and this will be the play button. So this is when we want to play again, play another round. And I want this button to be on the other side here. So if we go to the horizontal fill, we want this to shrink end and then expand, and that'll put it on the farthest side to the right that it can. And this should be shrink begin. It doesn't look like it matters. If we had expand, then this button would take up the entire space that it could in this. But we want shrink begin. I don't know, does that look better if we have expand on both of these? Would that look better? I don't know, I kind of like that better. I'll leave it like that. Okay. So we're going to need to enter a score when we have a game over. So let's click on the root node here, and we're going to create another. Is this a margin container? Yes. Okay. Let's add a margin container here. And let's name this the enter score container. Have that be a full rect. Mouse ignore. And let's set the margins here. So this is going to be 136, 96, 138, and 140. And I just got these just by messing around and to get the shape that I wanted. Let's add a panel container on that. And let's come down here on the panel container and give it a style box flat, so it has a different look than the default style box that it gives you. Let's add another margin container inside of that and give it 8 pixel margins all around. And then we can add a VBox container. You can see UIs are they're all about containers, just layering containers. Everything turns out really nice and crisp. You don't have to manually position anything. You should never manually position everything. It'll always get messed up when you try to change the screen size and stuff like that. So you always want to be using containers. Let's have a label in here. This is going to be the game over label. Let's center that. Let's go to the VBox container again and put it in an H separator. Click on the VBox again, and we'll have another label here. This will be the enter score label. So let's say enter a name to save score. Enter that. Click on the VBox container again. Let's have a line edit here. And click on the VBox container one more time and we'll have a button. So this is going to be the name line edit. And then we will have an enter button. So enter. And then this name line edit. The placeholder text will be name. And let's set its font. We can go to the UI theme and go to a line edit, add this to our theme. Click plus on the font here and let's add the rubber BBB to that. There we go. And I don't want this enter. I don't want it to fill, so I want it to shrink center. There we go. All right, so that's our enter score container here. Now let's wire it all up. So go ahead and save this under menus, under UI menus, leaderboard menu, save that. Let's add a script on there. And we're gonna do some fun stuff with this leaderboard menu. It's gonna look really cool. So before we get into this, we actually need one more scene here. We're gonna need a scorecard scene. So let's add a new scene here. This is going to be an other node. It's going to be an HBox container. We're going to name this scorecard. So in this HBox container, we're going to have two labels. We're going to have the name label and the score label. So this is name, this is the score. Let's go ahead and save that. You can just save that under the UI folder. Save, let's add a script to that. And we're just gonna have an init in here. We're gonna pass in a player name as a string, and we're gonna pass in a score value, an int. So we're going to set the name label .text equal to the player name. And we're going to set the score label .text equal to a string of the score value. So we're going to be calling this function outside of the script, so that's why it doesn't have an underscore in front of it. And that's all we need to do for the score label. Let me make sure we have the... Okay, so click on the score label here. We want the horizontal alignment to the right for this one. And we want it to shrink end and expand. And then on the name label, we want to shrink begin and expand. Okay, now we can go ahead and save that scorecard. So let's come back to the leaderboard menu script. So up here at the top, we're going to have a save file path. It's a string. I'm going to save this to the user folder under leaderboard.json. And we're going to have a scorecard scene. Let's reference that scorecard scene that we just made. The pack scene equals preload. Come down here and go to our UI folder, grab that scorecard scene and grab a reference to that. So here we're going to have our scores as an array, and we'll initialize that to a empty array. So we're going to need some onReady variables here for so this VBox container here. This is actually, let's rename this scorecard container. So this is what's going to hold all our scorecards. Let's access that as a unique name. We have our back button and our play button. Let's access both of those as unique names. And then we have the name line edit and the enter button. Let's access both of those as unique names. Let's grab all of those. We can hold Control and then click and drag and drop those in. While holding Control. Get this one too. So this is a VBox container. These are buttons. This is a line edit, and this is a button as well. We're also going to need to access this enter scorecard container. So let's put that there. This is a margin container. Okay, let's come into the ready function here. And we're going to connect to that game over signal. And we're also going to load scores when we're ready. So let's create both those functions. So function on game over. Let's just do pass for now. And function load scores. So let's have a function in here to add a score. So we're going to pass in a player name and a score value. So var new entry. So each one of these entries is going to be a dictionary. So the key is going to be name, and the value is going to be the player name. And then we will have the score, and that will be the score value. Is it giving me some sort of warning on this? I can't tell. I don't know why that's highlighted like that. So let's do var insert index. An int equals score dot size for I in scores dot size. So we want to insert this scorecard in, we want the scores to go high to low. So the highest score at the top and the lowest score at the bottom. So we're going to cycle through all the scores that we have. And if the score value is greater than the scores, the current index score value, then this is where we want to place that score, that new entry. And so if we do get that, then we will break out of this loop. What's going wrong here? Scores. Okay, so now we know where, what index we want to insert this score into. So we will do scores.insert the insert index, and we will insert that new entry. So this scores array is basically holding an array of dictionaries that each have a name and a score associated with them. That's what's going on here. At the bottom here, we will refresh the UI once we're done, and we will save scores. So let's create those functions. So to refresh the UI, we're going to have a for child in scorecard container dot get children. So this will get us all of the scorecards that we're currently containing in the scorecard container. We will queue free all those. And then we will remake all those from our new scores array. So var card equals scorecard scene. We'll call this scorecard instance. And this is going to be an HBox container. Scorecard scene.instantiate as HBox container. Let's say scorecard container add child scorecard instance. And then we will do scorecard instance dot init with the entry name and the entry score. So that'll refresh our scorecards. Let's go ahead and do the save scores. So for this, we're going to save this scores array to this save file path, the leaderboard.json. So var file equals file access dot open. We're going to open that save file path and with file access dot write permissions. So we're going to write to it. And here's just a check. If file is equal to null, then we're going to want to return. So file.store string json.stringify the scores data, and then file.close. So that'll save our scores array as a JSON. And then we can go ahead and write the load scores now. So if not file access dot file exists, so we're looking if this file exists at the save file path. If it doesn't exist, we're just going to return out of here. So var file equals file access dot open. So we're going to open this file again at the save file path with file access read permissions. So we're only going to read from this. If file is still null at this point, we're going to return as well. So var text equals file dot get as text. And then we can close the file. So now we have the information in this text here. So var result equals json dot parse string that text. So if result is array, then scores equals result. And we can do sort scores and then refresh UI. So let's create that sort scores really quick. So scores.sort custom. And we're going to have an inline function here. Pass in A and B. Return A score greater than B score. So this is going to look at the scores in each dictionary entry, and if A is greater than B, then it will return it first and sort it accordingly. So I'm missing, what am I missing? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so this will simply sort our scores from highest to lowest. And that's all we really have to do for the scorecards. So we can add a new score, we can save and load the scores, and sort the scores. So let's go ahead and connect up to this enter button here, signal pressed. So when we press the enter button, we want to add that score. The player name is going to be from the name line edit .text. And we're going to grab our game manager.score. And then we'll take that enter score container .visible equals false. Let's go to the name line edit and we'll do text submitted, connect to that text submitted signal. So when the text is submitted, you can either hit enter and submit the text that way, or you can click on the on enter button. So we'll just connect to the on enter button pressed here as well if the text is submitted that way. Let's connect to the back button here on press signal. So if we click back on the leaderboard, if getTree.currentScene.name is not equal to main, so we're not on the main menu, then we're going to return to the main menu. So get tree dot change scene to file main. Else we already are on the main. So we're going to set visible equals to false on this leaderboard, and then we're going to do events.show main menu .emit. So that'll reshow the main menu and it will hide this leaderboard menu. So let's go into this on game over now. So when on game over happens, we're going to set visible equals to true on this. We're going to show the leaderboard menu. We're going to take that enter scorecard container dot visible equal to true. And we're going to take the play button dot visible equal to true. So initially we're going to have this set up to where the enter scorecard container is not visible and the play button is not visible. So we don't want to show those on the main menu when we open up this leaderboard. So we only want that to happen when we have a game over. Okay. And if we click the play button, so on play button pressed, we will do game manager dot reset score. And then we will just reload the game scene. It was just an easy way to reset the game. You know, a better way to do this would probably be to actually physically reset everything. Like if we come to the game scene here, where's our game scene? It would be to reset the player's position, to clear all of the projectiles on the screen and clear all of the enemy manager children as well. So that's one way that you could reset the game. This is just literally reloading the entire game scene, which is kind of like a hack. Probably not best practice. If I wanted to do it properly, I would go in and grab this projectiles node, and then I would queue free all of its children, and I would queue free all the enemy manager children and reset the player position manually. But you know, this is fine. And we're not using the new text here, so we could put an underscore in front of that. Yeah, so let's come into the UI here. And let's instantiate that leaderboard menu on the UI. Let's close all these extra windows we have going on here. So the leaderboard menu, we want it initially to be not visible. I don't want you to access my location. What the heck? Yeah, so initially it's not visible. And then we will set it visible once we hit a game over. So let's go ahead and test that out then. Just get a score here. Now we can die. And nothing happens. And what is the reason for that? So let's go into the player here. This is where we should be calling. So we're calling events.gameover.emit. And then in the leaderboard, we're in events.gameover.connect to onGameOver. On game over, we're saying visible is equal to true. Should be showing up. Unless games, the UI is here. Leaderboard's here. When we get a game over, the leaderboard should be visible. Let's just make the leaderboard visible right off the start and see if it's even showing up. It's not showing up. So something is wrong. Let's go to the remote tab here. Let's go into the UI. I don't see the leaderboard under here at all in the UI. What's up with that? So the UI, the leaderboard's here. Go ahead and delete that and add it back. Leaderboard. Save that. UI's here. Play the game. Go to the remote tab. UI has the leaderboard there. The leaderboard's showing up now. Okay, that was weird. Go ahead and save that. I don't know what that was. Try to die here. Boom, leaderboard should show up. Okay, let's enter our name. Grum. Click enter. And okay. This is supposed to be underscore score, but we don't want to access this like this. So let's have a function get score. And this will return an int. Return score. Game manager dot get score. Let's try this one more time. Boom. Okay. Enter our score. And there we go. Now I want this to be all the way over here. So let's try play again. So that resets it. Okay, we're reset. Go ahead and die. Enter another score. This is supposed to be score, not scores. Enter, let's hit back. So this is going back to the main menu. That's good. Let's actually open up our main menu and we can set up the leaderboard there as well. That's under UI, menus, main menu. Here's our leaderboard here. So when we click the leaderboard button, we will do main menu panel container dot visible equals false. We're going to need to add the leaderboard to the main menu as well. So let's go ahead and do that. add the leaderboard on here and access as unique name. Leaderboard. Do leaderboard menu.visible equals true. Okay. So when we start the main menu, we should be able to access the leaderboard now. There we go. Leaderboard, back. Options, back. It's all working fine. Oh yeah, the scores aren't aligning how I wanted them to. So I think that's a problem with probably the scorecard container. This needs to be fill expand. So come to the scorecard container here. On the horizontal, make sure you check expand there. I think that's the issue. Let's see, let's get a higher score than 1 this time. Enter, there we go. And if we fill this up, there'll be a scroll bar and a scroll wheel. It's looking good. It's looking good.